Hi guys, this is Claudia, and you're probably wondering why I am here showing you some wine barrels. Let me flip the camera, let me show. I'm here at the Amalthea Winery in Atco, and I'm actually learning all about wine today. Don't you know I love my job? So I'm here with
Holly.
Holly is going to actually tell us how to, she's working on a blend, and I'll let her speak because she's the expert.
So we're working on a blend right now for our Cantina Mas. And Cantina Mas is our fresh draft wine program. We pull it straight from the barrel for customers and we put it into a bag, all BPA free plastic, but it's a gallon. You get to bring home a gallon of wine straight from the barrel. And it's always a blend. So we're working on the winter blend right now, doing a couple of different blending trials. To see not only what would taste like winter, but also to see what will last over time, because it's going to last. We want it to last throughout the season. So
what are the differences? Let me show them this one. What is this, for example?
Well, that's Grenache here. So you can go ahead and try that one, and that would be one of the varietals that are put into our Cantina Mas blend. But if you want to try these are the, out of all these wines here, I came up with two different blends, blend 1 and blend 2, and you can try the two and tell me which one you prefer. Now, Cantina Mas is always a dry blend, and it changes with the season.
That's my favorite.
So we're almost finished with our fall, and then we'll be moving right along to the winter. Then we'll do another one in the spring and summer.
Number 2 better. So
what's
the difference between the two of them?
Well, there's actually only a slight difference. The percentage varies a little bit differently, and I took away a little bit of one varietal and I added in another blend to basically make blend 2 a little bit more smoky. So blend 1 is a little bit more fruit forward, and blend 2 is a little bit smokier. Probably has a little bit more chocolate in it. Not real chocolate, but all the notes that you pull from the grape, where we only do grape.
That is why I like it. You know I'm all about chocolate, right? I shouldn't be doing this right now, but because I'm trying to go back on my diet, but you know, yes.
It's okay. Red wine's good for your health. It is.
I like it. See, I love her already. So is there anything else that you would like to share with us about, not only about the blends, but about the other barrels and what we have down here?
Yeah, well, you guys are looking at our French cellar. It's our barrel room, and all of these barrels are full of wine right now, and they vary in varietal, they vary in vintage, which is the year. And each barrel that you see, it might be American oak, it might be French oak, and if you see these two huge barrels over here, those are Hungarian oak. And usually we will age our Chardonnay in those Hungarian oak barrels. And all the toasts vary, and they all impart different flavors into a wine. It'll impart tannins into a wine, it'll impart a little bit of charcoal flavors or smoke flavors. American oak will give you those bigger, more bold vanilla type of flavors, and French oak is more spicy, subtle flavors. So it all depends.
It's just so amazing that, you know, that depending on the barrel where the wine is stored, you have that going into the wine and into the different flavors. I've always very been intrigued. I was sharing to Julia that who had invited us to come here today, that I have been to winery places in Europe, but never in here. And in there they have like seriously thousands of barrels, and they explain the history of the wine, and that some of the different barrels are hundreds of years old. And they actually share the difference between having this barrel or that barrel, not only the flavors, but also how the age impacts the wine. So can you share a little bit with us about the age as well, how the age differentiates what the kind of wine that you have here? Do you only have younger barrels, like younger wine, or
Before you do that, they're asking if the American oak gives a vanilla flavor to it?
Yes. Yes, it does. That's why oftentimes Chardonnay will be aged in American oak, but here we do Hungarian oak. But going back to your point, we only use barrels about 1 or 2 times because those will impart the most flavors and you'll get the most out of young barrels. After it's used, because these wines will be in here for years. We don't release anything younger than 2 years, actually.
Okay, that's good enough.
So the wine basically lives in these barrels for 12 months to 2 years, and we'll only use a barrel 1 or 2 times to impart the most flavors and get the most out of the barrels. After that, they're sold to other people. Sometimes breweries will pick them up, home winemakers will pick them up, and then those barrels will still impart a little bit of flavor and a little bit of tannins into a wine, but just not nearly as much. So they get reused.
Okay, is there a specific temperature? I know wine needs to stay in a colder temperature, but just as a curiosity, because we have people watching us right now, what is the preferred temperature so that the wine is preserved in its best quality?
Well, you want anywhere between 50 and 60 degrees with about 75% humidity. Room temperature is actually considered 55 degrees because back in the old days, back to European times when people lived in castles, room temperature was 55 degrees.
There was no heater. I was just telling somebody that they couldn't believe I went to the castles in Germany and there was no heater in the winter.
Yeah. It was just that one temperature, and that was 55 degrees. It's about that temperature, and that was considered room temperature. That's the temperature they would drink their wine. So nowadays, red wine, you want to keep, once it's bottled and all, you want to keep it about 60, 62 degrees. If you have a wine fridge, you can keep it in there and set it to about that temperature. White wines, 45 degrees. Chardonnay could be a little bit warmer, say 50, 55 degrees, but it really does depend on, white or red. But the important thing is not to let it get too hot, because heat will age a wine quicker.
Okay, that was my question.
There was a question here. They want to know if there's any red wine that you would recommend serving chilled.
Yes, absolutely. A Gamay, so like a Beaujolais or Beaujolais Nouveau, which is the Gamay grape, you could certainly serve a little chilled. So in our terms, that would be about 55 degrees. Or 50 degrees even. But that would be my recommendation for a chilled red wine. Or if it's a sweet red wine. If it's sweet, you could certainly chill it. Or the other option would be a dessert wine.
What would you say is a sweet red wine?
Here we have off-dry wines, which have a hint of residual sugar, anywhere between 1.5% and 3.5% residual sugar, and those are just a little bit sweet. So that would basically, in the winemaking process, you arrest the fermentation and allow some sugar to stay in the wine instead of fermenting it all into alcohol. So here, Callisto Rouge, Callisto Gris are some of our sweeter red wines, and we also have Solera, which is a dessert Madeira style wine. But if you went to a wine shop, they usually have an entire section on sweet wines. Moscato is a big one, and you could have, the Muscat grape comes in a variety of different strains. So you could get a white Muscat grape, you get a red, a black Muscat grape, and those will all...
You're teaching me, I thought it was all red. Okay.
No, they will all impart, because, most of the time, a wine's color comes from the skins of the grape. So if you were to break open a majority of red-skinned grapes, it's still clear flesh. Mm-hmm. So, like a Champagne usually has Pinot Noir grape in it, but it's not red. Mm-hmm. However, there is a handful of grapes out there, Tinanterior grapes like Alicante, that does have red flesh. So that'll impart a really rich, deep color into a wine. But yeah, so that's where the color would come from.
That's great. Yeah. Well, guys, I wanted to thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you so much for the questions. Thank you for following me. I will actually be doing some wine tasting because, it's all about having fun. I love what I do, so I'll be sharing a little bit there later with you. Thank you so much for being here with me. I hope you learned as much as I did. And, thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge with you. I will be back soon. Please stay tuned, okay?